Good day. It's becoming my trusty film corner. I love it. So I'm filming this on March 1st, so happy March. It's gonna be hopefully a really good month. I leave for Miami tomorrow. I'm there for a few days just visiting a close friend of mine. And then the next week, I get my next tattoo, which is crazy and I'm really nervous about it. And then the weekend after that, I'm hosting my dinner party. And then the end of the month is going to be sad because one of my friends is leaving for medical school. But you know what? We're going to just take this month as it comes. And we're just going to try to do our best to stay in the present. I don't know exactly what I want to title this video. Maybe it'll be something like things I do that just don't make sense, or things I do that seem healthy but aren't, or 3 of my biggest flaws. Something like that. Like, it could be really honestly any one of those things. But I had these revelations when I was at the gym today, and I thought that I would just share them here and talk through them because they're important to me right now. So my first flaw / thing that I want to work on / thing that can seem healthy but probably isn't is that when a wound of mine is triggered, I try my best to just dive into it. Let me explain. So I'm having this dinner party, right? One of my friends who I thought was going to be able to come can't come any longer, and that's fine. I'm not upset that they can't come, but getting a text this morning that said, "Hey, I'm so sorry, but," and then you kind of see like the ... trails off, triggered me. And it didn't trigger me like in this crazy way. It kind of was just like, oh, I opened my phone and I saw a text that bummed me out, and I know what it's going to be. It's going to be something like, oh, but let's, reschedule, or let's, hang out sometime soon after that. Whatever it is, I digress. And that's the trigger. The trigger is like a normal, it doesn't feel good to be rejected or to be told that you're not going to see somebody when you're excited about seeing them. But what I'll do is I know that I'm being triggered for something, right? So what happened this morning was I didn't just read that text and let myself feel sad or bummed over it and be like, oh, it's not a huge deal. Like, I'll see you at the next one. What I do is I use it as an opportunity to dive into that wound and figure out where it comes from, because I think that somehow if I do that, I'm going to understand myself better and get more comfortable when that wound is triggered in the future. I asked myself why it bothered me, and then I realized it kind of stems from this feeling of just not loving when I get rejected, and then somehow trying to connect that feeling of rejection back to, well, the number of people that show up to my party somehow has some dictation on my worth. And then I dive into it deeper, and I'm like, well, where does that come from? Why would the number of people who show up have anything to do with my worth? What childhood wound is that from? Oh, well, when I was a kid, when I was in the 2nd grade, I threw a party and I didn't really have friends, and I just invited everybody from school, and I was late to it and it was embarrassing to me. I will just dive and I'll be like, okay, well, does this feeling right now feel like that feeling? And it's as uncomfortable and as painful as it sounds. And if you can't get a good feeling for that just based on me talking about it, I'll give you a prime example. It would literally be like a wound on someone's skin. Trigger warning if this kind of stuff bothers you to talk about, but it would be like having a wound or a scab or something, and you hit it, right? And it's like, ooh, that wasn't done healing. And then what I do is I'll literally use that as an opportunity to be like, oh my God, wait, that scab, I haven't looked at it in a while. Let's see what's under that. And I'll just start picking at it and I'll peel it. And I literally I wish there was a better way visually to get this across, but it's literally I just dive into a wound. I'll rip the scab off and I'll start digging into those nerve endings and all that raw flesh, and it doesn't feel good and it feels uncomfortable and many times kind of painful. And I'm just trying to bury myself and burrow myself into it so that I can utilize the trigger as an opportunity to know myself better and to figure out what's in there. And then I just try to get myself into that wound, quite literally fully into that wound, so that I can try to make it comfortable. or make it more homey, or understand what it's like from the inside out as opposed to the outside in. Because ultimately what I'm trying to do is bring myself to a position where I know that wound so well, or I know that feeling so well and so viscerally deep that the next time that it comes up, it doesn't bother me, or so that I can remove the fear of the unknown and the uncertainty around that wound being triggered and not knowing how it makes me feel or how long it's going to take me to feel better again. So I'll intentionally worsen my suffering, trying to see if I can get myself to feel okay in it, so that I can remind myself, hopefully, that the next time that thing happens, or the next time that someone bothers me in that same way, or I just have practice feeling shitty. And in theory, that could be okay. I guess that's a lot of the times why people sign up for voluntary discomfort. It's take cold showers, wake up at 6 a.m., go to the gym. But I think I take it a few steps too far. And this blind fixation on trying to get into the wound hurts me a lot. And I don't know if that's right. And I'm sure that there's a healthier and smarter and probably more efficient and better and kinder way to go about getting the same solution. Because it's not like I ever feel better after doing that. I literally was laughing at the gym because all of this was happening in my body maybe 30 minutes after I was doing one exercise, and I had a conscious moment where I stared in the mirror and I was like, I'm so good. I love myself and I love just being me, and I don't need anybody. I don't need a girlfriend. I don't need a partner. People are, I don't need anybody. I'm good here like this. And then within 30 minutes, I felt like shit. And all of that happened in my brain. Nothing else changed. This is number 2, and it connects to point number 1. So after I had finished up my session at the gym and I was walking to my car and I no longer felt good and my whole body was just uncomfortable after having mind you, one of the best workouts ever, and I was just dancing through my sets and everything like that. It changed. I was like, oh God, how do I make myself feel better now? This sucks. And point number 2 is that sometimes I reparent my inner child as a way to not feel whatever it is that I'm feeling. Let me take a step back and explain. So then I start to not feel good, and I recognize that I don't feel good, and I'm trying to do what I can to make myself feel better again. And what I kind of start to do is I realize okay, there's a little girl inside, my inner child, or younger version of me, whatever you want to call it, and she's hurting right now. And she's hurting because there were all these old wounds that were just triggered, the fear of rejection, the not knowing how to determine my worth, and not liking the whole, not having control, all these things, whatever. And then I kind of come in the current version of myself, adult me right now, 24-year-old me, and I'm oh, I know how to handle this. It's my responsibility to reparent my inner child and to hold her and let her know that it's okay, which is an important thing to do. And I want to make an important distinction here. It's not that I'm saying that that's not an important thing for me to do and that that's not an important skill to learn how to provide for yourself, but I'll use that focal point of the reparenting as an opportunity to once again not fully feel my feelings. Because if I shift the focus on to what can I do, what action can I take, well, immediately I'll kind of just personify that inner child or that younger version of myself and be look, I got you, we're okay, it wasn't a big deal, you know that they love you, you know that this doesn't have anything to do with you, we're good. And I'm trying to console feelings without feeling them yet again. So I don't fully feel things and I don't fully intellectualize things, and I kind of just let myself skeet through this area where I'm essentially just problem solving my feelings away. I think it's important to be able to show up for myself in that way and to say it's okay, you're loved, everything's gonna be okay. But it also needs to be okay to say that sucks and this feeling sucks and they didn't do anything really to cause that for me. They're a good person, but that still sucks for me. Like, I don't still let myself feel things because I feel like I understand that they're irrational, or I understand that it would be embarrassing to be like, hey, I just want to let you know that you telling me that you can't come upsets me. Like, those are my feelings, and that's my responsibility. It's not anybody else's. So I kind of just feel awkward, and like, what am I supposed to do with this if I understand that that's irrational and that they didn't do anything wrong? Like, how do I reconcile these feelings? And I don't. I just go straight to parenting myself and being like, it's okay, we're good. And that's something that I definitely need to work on. And the last thing, this is, for a while, I never knew what my like toxic traits were, or if someone were to be like, what's the worst thing that you do in a relationship or in a friendship, or just like, what's your worst quality? I honestly, for a long time, had no idea what I'd say, because I think I'm a good person, and I think most people would agree that I am a good person. But the third thing, and this is probably the most important thing that I need to work on and want to work on, is how to not take things personally. On one hand, I love it when people don't respond to me, because I have really, really close friends of mine who will forget to respond, take days, if not weeks to respond, who will literally leave me on red, who will just completely not respond to a question that I ask them. On one hand, I love when my friends and people who are near and dear to my heart space do that, because then it helps me feel a little bit more comfortable if somebody I don't know that well does it, to not take those types of things personally. But I definitely take that personally. I will wonder, why did they not respond? We hung out, things were great. Why am I suddenly getting like this cold treatment? And I create storylines in my head 24/7. And it's so bad, and it drains me of my energy, and I don't know why I care so much about what other people think of me. I just want to know that people like me, and I want to pulse check and make sure I didn't do anything wrong to them. And if I knew that, I wouldn't care how long it takes somebody to respond, or if I had the backstory for they read the text immediately and then just completely forgot to respond, and then I didn't cross their mind, or other things got in the way. Like, if I have the backstory for it and the explanation, I would feel okay. But what I want to work on is not having the story and still being okay. Like, I shouldn't have to have people explain themselves to me for me to feel safe and to feel like I can relax and to remember that I am loved. I shouldn't be thinking about whether or not I'm loved. I shouldn't even be thinking, period, about what other people have going on, unless it's from this like perspective of wanting to make sure that they're okay and that they're doing well and that they're happy. I just want to be more free-spirited in that sense as well. I know a lot of people say like there's nothing wrong with telling people like, look, I'm an anxious attacher, or I worry, and just like, if you could kind of give me some detail or let me know, hey, it's going to be a little while before I get back to you. Like, yeah, of course that makes me feel good, but I want to learn how to not care about that. Like, other people don't care about that. I feel like I spend a lot of mental energy wondering and worrying, and that's not something that I like about myself, and it's definitely something that I want to change. But again, I don't know how to do that outside of, the support of people around me, so to speak. And I don't want to, I don't know. I want to be able to do that on my own. And I think I can, but I need the help of my therapist to figure it out. Anyway, that was a lot. But it actually kind of felt good to get that off my chest, and I definitely feel at least a little bit more present right now. I was definitely really stressed today, and I should have taken my own advice that I like to give, which is to reset and to try to get out of that like fixation loop and go for a walk or spend some time outside. But instead I made a coffee to perpetuate my anxiety. At least I filmed this. I almost didn't film this because I started to get so stressed, and I was like, I made a coffee so I can film, but now I don't want to film, and now I don't want a coffee. And this is what my brain's like a lot of the time. It just people don't see it because it happens in here. Anyway, that's it for this week. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here and for listening. And I hope that I can, make good efforts towards improving on these goals. and on these things that I don't love about myself. And it's all just kind of in the pursuit of learning how to live a happier life, a healthier life, and a life that is more mindfully attuned to myself and the kind of lived experience that I want to have. So more fun, less thinking, and everything else can kind of just come as it goes. Come as it comes. Go as it comes. Whatever. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Bye.